All right, y'all, I'm so excited because I get to sit down with the man himself and the leader of Ramsey Solutions. You know him as a nationally syndicated radio show host, New York Times bestselling author. I know you as a leader and a friend, Dave Ramsey. Dave, thanks for being here.
I'm honored.
This is the first time.
Excited for you. This is a great day.
This is the first time you've been down, I think, on this side. You've been on Rachel's side over on her show, but we were thinking about kicking off the launch of the pre-sale, the new book, Take Back Your Time. We're like, we have to have Dave. We have to have Dave. And, you know, I'm so excited. I was just reading a couple weeks ago the foreword that you wrote for this book. And it's funny because it takes me back to those initial conversations about this subject of life balance. And we know it's a pain point in our culture because people ask me about it. They ask you about it, and they have for years. And you've got some feelings on it. And you've had some feelings. Talk a little bit about maybe the kind of the backstory of your thoughts on this topic and maybe even that specific wording, you know, life balance and what that means.
What has bothered me, I think, most is from a leadership perspective, or even sometimes when I was coaching someone on money or they would call in on the radio show, I want life balance was too often code for, I don't really want to work.
That's the deeper issue going on. Yeah,
I just really don't want to work, and so I'm going to blame this on my laziness on this noble thing of nurturing the children and taking care of self and all of this crap that you do need to do, obviously.
Right.
But the way it's couched oftentimes is it's code for I don't want to work so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes my Christian brothers and sisters will do that. Sometimes when they say prayer, they mean prayer. And sometimes they say, I'm going to pray about this, or I'm praying about this. What that means is they can't make up their mind.
Right, they can't make a decision.
Or they're just, they don't work much. They don't want to go be a person of action.
Yeah.
And this whole thing of balance sometimes is used as a cloak over some dysfunction. The actual idea of having an overall balanced life is a good idea.
Right.
But I recoil against this because it's so often when someone brings this up, or I've heard speakers and people speak on the subject, and they get it so wrong that you leave there going, who could do that?
Right.
No, real humans can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and it's so perpendicular to what you teach in the money space, but also what we know is a principle for life, which is to make progress in any of your life, you need to focus there. If you're training for a marathon, you're going to run a lot more than you normally would run. If you're getting out of debt, you're going to be gazelle intense for a season. So that's not balance. But I think that one of the things that we've seen is, to your point, there's a lot of mixed up ideas about balance and what that word means and what it represents. And I know, for you have the extreme of people calling in and they're like, I just don't want to work. You also have the extreme of people work themselves into the ground and they don't have a life. And as a value here at Ramsey Solutions, we say we value family. And I've heard you do some talks on this, and you have such a great perspective of if you work all the time for years and years and years and years and you don't have a family, like that's not a good life. And if you don't work at all, that's not a good life. So over the course of your life, as there's an ebb and flow to it, I feel like you talk a little bit about that because that's one of our core values, but it's not as the culture would define it of everything is perfect all the time.
Exactly. Our money principle, the idea of being gazelle intense, live like no one else so that later you can live and give like no one else. So for 18 to 24 months, don't go to a restaurant, don't go on vacation, take extra jobs, sell so much stuff the kids think they're next, sacrifice so that for the rest of your life, you don't have this burden of debt on you.
Yeah.
And 90-something% of our followers that get out of debt do it in 18 to 24 months, not counting their mortgage.
Yeah.
But you would think that I had signed someone up to go to some kind of prison camp or something for 20 years.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave Ramsey doesn't want anybody to have any fun. Dave Ramsey doesn't want... And I believe in balance. No, you believe in not getting stuff done.
Not being disciplined, yeah.
And not being willing to pay a price for a short period of time so that over the scope of your life you achieve balance.
Yeah.
And instead you're captive to these thoughts.
Yeah. When we were at Entree Leadership Summit recently, a few months ago, I was talking to some of the attendees, and I know a lot of business leaders struggle with this in a unique way because the weight of the world is on their shoulders with the business. But I talked to one woman, and it was at one of the evening receptions, and she had so much guilt around the subject. And I think that's one of the things, that's what I love about the subtitle of the book, The Guilt-Free Guide to Life Balance, because whether you are a hard-driving entrepreneur or you're a stay-at-home mom or whatever you do, there seems to be an undercurrent of guilt that we're not getting it right. Talk a little bit about how you've seen that, because I know with business leaders, like there's a lot of people that just feel guilty, and you're going, hey, you get to define your version of balance. It's going to look different in every season. Talk a little bit about that guilt.
Well, I think there's two categories there. One is just shame because you're not getting it right.
Yeah.
And
you should change
for
something.
5 years, you've been working 80 hours and you haven't seen your kids.
Yeah.
That's not getting it right.
Right.
Okay? And so that's conviction.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And then the other is just this vague sense of I'm never enough.
Yeah.
And no matter what I do. And I think the antidote, and you and I, you've done such a beautiful job of teaching on this, the antidote is that it's for a season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we go, back in the day, I used to do book tours, and we would launch a book, like we're doing now. But, and we would go city to city to city and do all these book signings. There was these things called bookstores.
Yeah, yeah.
And, but I would be gone for 30 days from my family. Mm-hmm. And they knew that was coming. We talked about it.
Right.
We set it up. And then when Dad came home, we would go and do something like a Disney trip or whatever, something to celebrate the fact that we were back home. And I would unplug from that. But I'm all in on this, and then I'm all in on that. It's for a season.
Yeah.
And that will release you from this vague sense of guilt. And it'll also instruct you if the season's too long and it's convicting you that you need to change, then you need to say, okay, this season's gone too long.
Yeah.
And I've got to adjust something at this business. This business is now eating me alive.
Yeah. I love how you talk about this vague sense of something being wrong, because it does feel like there's this almost like shadow that kind of haunts people. And, I talked about this at Summit, but I think that one of the struggles with this idea of life balance is we never define it. Mm-hmm. We just know we don't have it, right? So that guilt is always haunting us that we're not getting it right, even if we are, even if we're doing the right things at the right time.
It's almost as if the culture's looking over our shoulder, giving us an eye roll.
Right, right.
Yeah, there's another one.
Right, exactly.
There's plenty of folk out there that'll tell you you're getting it wrong, and these are people who don't do anything.
Yeah. Who don't get a say. I just posted something on social media last week, and for the most part, people, are usually nice, but it was something that I'm doing, and she literally posted back. It was like, your poor children, your poor husband, you should be scared. And I was like, it's like that type of thing. You're going, if someone was shaky in their decision making already, you got social media with everybody with a megaphone and opinion to tell you you're getting it wrong. So one of the things that I loved helping people do in this book and in my Summit talk is actually defining life balance in a new way, redefining, and saying it's not a 50-50 split. That's not realistic or attainable. It's not doing everything for an equal amount of time. That's not realistic or attainable. But when you do the right things at the right time, even if you're busy, you can feel a sense of balance because you're focusing your time and energy on what's right now. And guess what? What's right now will change in different seasons or different weeks or so on. So talk a little bit about, and we talked about this online and offline, but what if the question is not, how do I balance it all? Balance is a verb. But what if balance is something you can create more of a sense of peace, more of a sense of confidence of I'm spending my time on the right things. And then when I do that, I feel balanced. Have you felt that in your life, that when you're focusing on the right things, whether that's being at the lake or being on book tour or all the million things that you do you feel that sense of peace and confidence that even if your world's busy, you feel that?
That is the beauty of this material that you've written, is that you really are not going to, there's really no middle ground. When a whole bunch of opportunities of wonderful things come at you.
Like they always do.
And and the better you get at things, the more it's going to come.
Yes.
The better the older you get, the more respected you are, the more it's going to come. The more you grow your career, the more it's going to come. The more kids you have, the more it's going to come. Then you got grandkids, and more is going to come. And so it doesn't stop coming at you. You always are going to have more opportunities than you have time. And so you're either going to get crushed by that and live in this constant state of guilt, or you're going to get your ducks in a row and say, okay, this, and then this, and not that, and then this, and not that, and you're going to get a priority. So, I talked about book tour, and we were, in the early days of this business, we were busy. I was the only speaker, and we're out on the road, and we're doing 30, 40 events a year. And so that's not that much compared to someone like in a rock band. They're gone all the time or something, but we were gone a lot. And so we ended up, I said, okay, we've got to, our kids are moving into teenage years. The girls are cheerleaders. I'm going to be here for the game. Daniel's playing ice hockey. I'm going to be the coach. So I'm gonna get the schedule, the hockey schedule, and we're gonna build the events around it. And we're gonna get the prom dates. I didn't miss a single prom. And so I was completely there. And people go, I don't understand how you do it. You're so busy. And it's just simple. It's this is important, most important, and then that's next most important. So we're going to put it there, and we're going to arrange around it to where then you just go, I'm doing the most important things at any given moment that I could possibly be doing, and the rest of it was no.
Yes.
It enables you to say no,
and
it enables you to not feel guilty, and it's powerful material you put together.
Thank you. I'm curious, even as you talk about that, has that ever been hard for you, or like the prioritizing? Because here's what I've seen, Dave. A lot of people, and I will say as a generalization, a lot of women treat everything as if it's important. And so it's like, I got to do this, and it's all created equal. It's like, no, what's most important? They're like, I don't know. Patrick Lencioni says, if everything's important, nothing is. Is that prioritizing? Has that always been easy? Has it been hard?
No, it's gotten easier.
Okay.
Saying no is the key.
Yeah.
I think
you're good at that.
That completely sets you free.
Yeah.
And the more of that you do, it's a muscle you build. And
yes.
You just go, hey, no.
Yeah.
You just get really good at it, you know?
You're like, I'm allowed to do this? Okay.
I am not doing that. Yeah. I love you.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
And so, that's a big thing. Early on, when you first start building this muscle, regardless, male, female, whatever it is, all of us want to be liked.
Yeah.
And so inside of all of us, we're all, me too, people pleasers. I don't want somebody to be mad at me. Yeah. Dave Ramsey's snob, he wouldn't do this, right? Dave Ramsey, he didn't have time for me. He's too cool. You don't want people saying, nobody wants to hear that.
You don't want to be misunderstood.
I don't want to, and you're going to be.
Right. You're
going to be. And so you get to choose who misunderstands you. Mm. Some guy over there that's, or your own kid.
Yeah.
Your own spouse.
Yeah.
Or the people you work closest with that you've made a promise to honor and to get your work done.
Yeah.
And you can't because some goob over there in the fringes has an opinion and you're worried about his opinion. Mm-hmm. And so this need to please drives us to put too much on our plate.
Yeah.
It's affirmation need. And we all have it.
Yeah.
No one doesn't.
Yeah.
But the good news is you can build a muscle.
Yeah.
And because you start to go, I am so happy that some preacher somewhere that wanted me to speak at his church is upset with me instead of my daughter for missing her prom.
Yeah.
Good choice, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I get to choose who's upset.
Yeah.
And, Rachel Cruz for the rest of her life because her dad wasn't there, because I went to some church and with 35 people because some guy had an attitude if I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Make a good choice.
I love that reminder because so often we focus on the no and how we're letting people down. But if we could focus on the yes, that no allows me to say yes over here. And like you said, it sets you free.
And the weird thing is you end up really, really busy doing all the exact correct things and you're not tired.
Yeah.
And you're not guilty.
Yep.
And you're fulfilled. And you're highly efficient too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people have this idea that if you're balanced or balancing it all, however they talk about it, that like you meditate all day, you pray, you have all this much. I'm like, no, you can be crazy busy, but feel that sense of balance because you're not doing everything. You're not doing the wrong things. You're not doing these things that person over in Nebraska wants you to come to. You're doing the right things. And that is energy giving. That is life giving as you spend those times on the right things. I think one of the challenge I've seen a lot of, and I definitely experienced this, is not just the people pleasing. And I talk about this in the book, like the need to I want to be liked. I want people to think I'm a good mom. I want, whatever that is. But also when you have a lot of interests, it was like you said a minute ago, a lot of good things are coming at you. There's a lot of opportunities. There's always going to be more than we have time for. And if you're interested in a lot of things, it's that much more to prioritize still, even though we got 25 good things. What are the 3 best things? What are the most important things? And that can be hard in our world where there's a million things coming at us.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, my calendar is 15-minute blocks full.
Forever.
From the day out for months.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I feel the freedom to move it.
Yeah.
If I want to.
Right.
If I need to. I'm not going to disrespect somebody, but I had a guy who had been trying to meet with me for a long time, and I wanted to meet with the guy. And he, finally it's coming up, and a friend of mine passed away. Mm. And so I cleared my calendar and went to the funeral.
Yeah.
And, that poor guy in a sense, but, I'm not. How much guilt do I feel about that?
Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
0. I made the right, And so even though everything was full, I could still change it.
That's right.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I'm in charge of me.
Yeah.
It's such a neat thing.
We talk about when I walk through priorities in the book, I talk about the different types of priorities. I think people tend to think of priorities as this like in concrete thing, God, other, self. And I was like, that's a nice Sunday school answer. That's not practical for real life, because in your example, you had a week plan and here are the priorities. Your friend passed away.
The guy was an important guy.
Right, yeah. But something changes and your priorities change. So it's like what your priorities look like in a season or in a week or even in a given day can change based on what's going on in your world. And it should. And it should. If you're going to do the right things at the right time, you need to know what those right things are as they change. Dave, I love talking about this because you and I have had so many fun conversations about it. We've been on the road at Entre Leadership events. You've spoken at Business Boutique. We have heard people ask about this forever. And
It's an ongoing need.
Yes. Especially the busier our world gets and the more demand from social media and technology.
Well, and I think the more dysfunctional
Yeah.
the world gets, the more the toxic culture decides it's going to shame you for everything.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Yeah.
And so you've really got to get some principles around your brain to not go crazy on some of these subjects, and this is one of them.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful that you and the team and everybody are supporting this book. Tell me a little bit about what you hope this book does for people. You've read it. We talked on stage at Summit about this, but it's been cool. This is, I've been here 12 years this fall. I have been living this content for over a decade, and you've been with me on this journey. So I'm so grateful to get to be on it with you. But I'd love for people to hear from you what you hope for people from this book.
I think if you're doing the right things with your life, you're spending your time on the things that matter the most. That's your definition of balance. That you're not only going to have the most fulfillment, the most joy, but you're also going to have the most excellence and efficiency. And so prosperity is tied into this. Prospering is tied into this. And so I always think when I think about something like that's that important, that I visited my great-grandfather, who was a circuit riding preacher's gravesite, and it's got the 2 dates. And I've got all this history on all the things he did. He was a circuit rider. I mean, all these people he led to the Lord. He was an evangelist after the Civil War. He was my great-great-grandfather, my grandmother's grandfather. And there's 2 numbers on there. And then there's that thing in the middle, that dash. And the old motivational speaker always said, what are you going to do with your dash? And this book is the kind of thing that helps you do well with the dash.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, Dave, thank you. Thanks so much for supporting the book. Thanks for being here. Thanks for just all of your mentorship that has led to this content and this project. I've learned so much from you and Sharon and how y'all lead the company, but also in your marriage. And I know people love hearing from you. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for your time.